Yo, I feel like it's been a while since I made a video. Um, Newsflash, I've been back at work. Does not mean I'm gonna stop filming news though. I'm taking every chance I got to keep producing content because I love it, love it. And it's just a chance for me to geek out. So, hey. um, but actually today I wanted to give you guys a fun little hack. It's a honestly, it's a brilliant tool that Mel Robbins discovered using it on herself. She was in a deep, dark depression, having a lot of difficulties at work with business failing, and she decided that it came to her one night, shooting off like a rocket. Like there were mornings where she just didn't want to get up. And I mean, honestly, like just backtracking, like who finds themselves in situations where they just want to stay in bed, right? They hit snooze, or you start procrastinating on projects. Meaning, you have difficulty generating and creating forward momentum, right? You procrastinate on projects, you procrastinate at work. That email that needs to get sent, that issue, that complication that needs to get addressed. Or maybe you're just trying to get fit, trying to go to the gym, trying to eat healthy. Guys, a lot of the time, we're just repeating old patterns. And I know it must be getting super boring hearing me say it all the time, but guys, like we are running on autopilot 95% of the time. All right, like those 60 to 80,000 thoughts that we think every single day, 90% of them are just repeated thoughts, and thoughts are just habits that we formed. Okay, so how do we form new thought patterns? How do we form new emotional patterns? How do we form new habits? Well, let me tell you. Going back to Mel, I mean, now we have the science to show why it works. She just kind of did this on herself and realized, hey, it actually kind of works. And I share this with a lot of clients that come in to see me. And in fact, you can even pick up her book. It's called the 5-second rule. And what you're doing with the 5-second rule is you're simply counting back from 5 down to 1, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then you take action. You take action. So she imagined herself just kind of like shooting off like a rocket out of bed, right? Like, I gotta stop this. I gotta change. I gotta do something different. You know, screw it. I'm gonna count down from 5, and then I'm just getting out of bed. And she did it. And then she repeated it and repeated it and repeated it and repeated that process. And so, what's going on when we count down from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1? We're actually moving from the emotional part of the brain to the thinking part of the brain, right here, the prefrontal. We're activating that, and it's so a lot of action that we take, and again, a lot of the things that we're doing is also emotionally driven. And very often, even, if we've experienced very extreme emotions, and those emotions were tied to things that were occurring around us. Let's say you were super happy. You remember these things, right? When you're super sad or in a lot of pain, you remember those things. Our bodies, our memories code and wire in information based on our emotions. Okay? And sometimes when there's a lot of emotions laying underneath the surface is what I wanted to say. They're going to create certain habits and thought patterns, and they're going to create certain ways of being, certain behaviors, right? And so sometimes when we're feeling a little emotional, quote unquote, we start reaching for the things that we engage in habits. So the emotion will drive the thoughts that will engage the habit. So binge eating, when we're going down into negative thought spirals, which again is just a habit of a way of being, right? It's what we're used to. If we, for example, have certain addictions that we struggle with, like alcohol, for example, these are just processes. These are just patterns of behavior, and they're emotionally driven. So the emotion comes up, and then the behavior proceeds from the emotion. And oftentimes we don't even actually fully try to stop ourselves, try to assess or filter or really like piece apart the behavior itself, where it comes from, why it's there. And so what the 5 4 3 2 1 rule does is it actually kind of hijacks that process of the emotion, running the process, and brings us here to prefrontal cortex, which actually allows us to focus. It allows us to make decisions. It allows us to have control over our impulses, right? And when we can activate this, we're actually more deliberate, we're more conscious, we're more intentional, versus unconscious and just running on autopilot. And the beauty of this particular 5 second rule is that if you do it with something simple and you actually follow through, so just counting down and actually getting out of bed, you're actually also now wiring into yourself self-trust, confidence. Because what you're doing is you're telling the body, you're teaching the body that actually I do follow through. I am someone who follows through. So you're also shifting your identity. And that shifts your personality. And your personality, to quote Dr. Joe Dispenza, creates your reality. You see? And so when you start to build these small little new habits into your life by using the 5 second rule, so I need to get out of bed, or I need to engage in this, I need to engage in this. First, make it simple. Break down whatever habit or thing that you're trying to do and make it as simple as possible. And then in order to get yourself started, in order to create that momentum, hijack the prefrontal cortex, use the 5 second rule. And then the more often that you do it, the more you actually teach yourself that you are someone who follows through. You are someone who is confident. You are someone who takes action, right? Because all of these years of maybe of taking inaction, which doesn't sound right. Just not taking action. How about we leave it at that? You've trained yourself to not trust yourself. Make sense? And you can use this rule for anything. So, for example, whenever I a lot of stress and anxiety, I'm just feeling a little extra emotional, I do eat emotionally. I am someone who will go through a few bowls of cereal because I love cereal and I love the crunch and I love the cool, nice almond milk underlying it. It's good. What do you want me to say? I mean, yeah, I offer the better stuff, but it's still there and it's probably not the best thing to be doing. So, if you notice yourself in that place, again, that's the emotion driving the behavior. So what do? We count down 5 4 3 2 1. You engage the prefrontal, and then you can tell yourself in that moment, okay, actually I don't need this, or I'm going to do this, or actually here's the real goal or behavior or thing that I want to engage in, right? And so that's key. That's huge. And now going back to the emotional component, reward yourselves for every small action completed. And why is that important? Because that also helps to activate dopamine, and dopamine wires in new behaviors, right? Because we train ourselves, and this is how the brain works, right? It releases dopamine, which makes us feel good. So, to give you an example, if you are trying to soothe yourself and you reach for certain things like sugar or these other high dopamine producing substances, right? It tells the brain, oh, this is a good coping mechanism because it makes me feel good. So I'm going to keep reminding you about it. I'm going to keep that present. I'm going to keep that at the forefront. Here's what we're going to do to make sure that whenever you're not feeling good, we're going to make you feel good by using these things. The more often you do it, the more you entrain that. So now reward yourselves for the good behaviors. Spike that dopamine, because that's going to help wire in that new way of being, that new you. Make sense? I hope so. I feel like I'm trying to dump a lot on you, but as long as you get the concepts, right? Like you have a little bit of context for why it is you're doing certain things. So wire in a reward for these small things, you know, and again, emotions are really the key here, because they're going to wire in experiences, habits into our actual physical body, into our brains, into our minds, into the way we act, into our subconscious, which drives most of what we do. And think about it. Like, we tend to remember either the worst things that happen to us or the very best things that happen to us. And that's just because uh, those events were also carrying with them a lot of charge, a lot of emotional charge. And that told the body and the brain, hey, this is significant. Let's remember this. Okay. So that's why a lot of people who also do suffer trauma have to learn to create new experiences and wire those in with those positive emotions. And I mean, and this is again why meditation and all these other different tools and practices are so beautiful and wonderful, is because they teach you to pay attention. They teach you to pay attention to what's actually going on inside, to your experience, to your felt experience, to your emotional experience. And when you can learn to be aware and to be present with it, you can actually create a space of neutrality for yourself in that moment. And then what you can do is you can engage in further practices that cultivate and generate strong feelings of love and gratitude and these really positive emotions, because those are going to help wire in a new way of being. And so I'm just hoping that like there's enough here to give you context. But how to make this practical for yourself? So, well, okay, just to keep using the same example of getting out of bed, set your alarm. And actually, this is also something Mel shares in her book, so it's a great way to get started, just so you get a sense of what I'm talking about. Set your alarm, and when that alarm goes off, don't even hit snooze. Count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And if you're someone who actually naturally gets up, well, then you know what? Set your alarm for 15 minutes before when you naturally get up, just so you get a sense of how this goes. Set it as soon as it goes off. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Get out of bed. Okay? And in that moment, just feel super grateful that you followed through for yourself. Okay? That you did it for you. If there's another habit that you're trying to create for yourself, or for that matter, if you're trying to stop doing certain things, right? So again, going back to me, if I'm reaching for that next bowl of cereal, if I just take a moment and just like really get out of autopilot, because think about it, if you're ever caught binge eating, it's almost like you're not even like present, you're just like inhaling everything. Just stop and count back. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then just realize, okay, I don't want to do this, and choose otherwise. And then train that in yourself, because you now, by choosing otherwise, in that moment you stop that automatic process. You're creating a new thought pattern, and you're also reaffirming to yourself that you are someone who can do that, and that's so key. And then just give yourself a high five. You know, create that dopamine response. Reward yourself for every action completed, because this is how you will wire in new behaviors. And BJ Frog is someone who I believe he's got a few books out. But you know, you can definitely search him up on podcasts and if you use YouTube. He's great at teaching people how to wire in habits. And for him, the key thing is, as I mentioned, emotion. So incorporate emotion, more emotion, right? Because that's what's gonna wire in that new identity, that new way of being. And yeah, you're gonna hear me talk about emotion a lot, because when you're trying to create a new reality for yourself, trying to get out of self-limiting beliefs, self-limiting patterns, self-sabotage, you need to rewrite and rewire a new you. So you're creating a new architecture for yourself internally. Make sense? Cool. Awesome. Guys, have a beautiful, beautiful day. It's sunny, so I'm going for a walk. And guys, much love. All right, go in peace, and peace.